Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon, and dang, does it feel good to be talking about this show again. I've missed his sense of humor, and feel bad for sitting on these new episodes so long without reviewing them, so I apologize to everyone who kept hounding me about them. I was listening, but I was just too busy to do a video just yet. With that out of the way, let's talk about the first episode of Season 2, some Fred time. In it, we see Fred at his most hyperactive, solving multiple mysteries all in one go. It's silly, a little over the top, but plenty funny. I'd have loved to see some of those monsters in an actual episode, but I guess they do look more like throwaways. It's hard to argue that Be Cool Fred is a really fun version of Fred, taken to the extremes, even if I haven't always agreed with the evolution of the calm, stoic leader to what we've gotten in the past decade. Still, if you're a fan of this version of Fred, this episode delivers a paranoid, mystery-solving beast, with most of the plot centered around keeping Fred none the wiser to a land shark roaming the sea around the beach home. Which leads to some of the more funnier moments of Fred time, all incredibly funny to witness. Something this show has gotten quite adept at. The monster of the episode is, well, a land shark, as I said above. It has a really odd but really appreciated design. Not that I would have complained loudly, but I'm happy it's not just a walking version of a shark, but some weird, angly, twisted version of one instead. And I found his identity, that of the butler, to be as equally amusing as the rest of the episode. I like that it does the opposite of what you expect from that trope by making it the actual butler. Like he says, it's in his genes. The episode also manages to again squeeze in some heartfelt moments about Fred and the gang supporting him. This may possibly be the most picked-on iteration of Fred, but it also makes him feel more like a family than any past iteration. The chase music was also really good. I could see myself listening to this in my car on my way to work. In fact, hey, maybe we could get an actual Be Cool Scooby-Doo soundtrack. I'd buy it. Honestly, I don't know if it was because of the extended break between Season 1 and 2, but I've come to appreciate this series even more. Its comedy has gotten better, even as it remains ever so zany, and the characters feel real despite their cartoonish settings. It gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling watching this episode, and I hope to see that of the remainder of this series' episodes. But what about you, lords and ladies? Care to share your opinions on this episode below? If you're wondering where to catch these episodes, I believe they'll eventually make their way onto Boomerang's streaming service, so be sure to check there in the future. And be sure to subscribe for more weekly reviews. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. Something's up with Scooby's stomach, so he's heading to an animal hospital in the episode Werewolf. Too bad the place is a bad case of the werewolf. No matter where our poor teenage detectives go, trouble always seems to find them, and it's no more exciting than in this episode. I really dug the early moments of this episode where the colors got all dark and creepy. I remember enjoying that element back in Season 1 with, I think, the clown episode, and the vibe's still great here as well. It sells the horror factor of the werewolf stalking the hospital grounds. Wish I knew what the name for that technique was, but I do not, sadly. This whole episode is just a heap of fun in my opinion. You've got Scooby, who apparently isn't hungry, which scares his friends so much we get this amusing little sequence. I laughed my butt off when that happened, I promise. Then there's the most least effective Daphneism she's ever tried. Miming. It has its comedic moments, but it definitely ranks among the lowest, though it does prove Daphne looks good in black pants. The comedy continues as we're introduced to a cat who is more dog than cat, a doctor whose siblings all have silly jobs, and another dude who is afraid of mimes. It's like a recipe for a funny episode. It could have gone south, but the writers seem to have a solid handle on what makes sense for this show. If only the other shows Cartoon Network has under its belts had that level of control. The monster of the episode is, of course, the werewolf, so general creature, there's no way I'm going to sit here and try to figure out if he's based on an existing older Scooby-Doo monster or what. The person under the mask, Miguel, did end up having a rather smart plan to kidnap one of the cat's rare kittens and sell it. Like, surprisingly well planned, minus dressing up like a werewolf. I feel like he almost would have a better chance if he didn't do that, but I think the idea was to keep people away from the cat. Overall, the episode is brilliantly written and very comedic without going overboard. It stays in tune with the style the show is known for. So far, we're 2 episodes in, and Season 2 is off to a great start. I highly recommend you catch up on the episodes if you can find where they're airing. Also, be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more weekly reviews like this. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. If you'd like to get access to these videos earlier than usual, consider checking out my Patreon, link in the description. Hark! Let me tell ye the tale of 4 noble youths and their stalwart hound, who set forth one day to attend a grand fair, of which none were more authentic. There was Fred, their honor-bound leader, eccentric maiden Daphne, wise Velma, and the 2 fools Shaggy and Scooby. Alas, their merrymaking was halted thanks to the evil deeds of a foul spirit in the guise of a jester. Surely, what could such a malevolent foe have against ye old fair? Okay, enough of that. If I had more time on my hands, I would have done this entire review like that, but I barely faked my way through that one paragraph. Anyways, as you gathered, the gang are headed to a Renaissance fair in Ren Scare, and it is absolutely amazing. There's only one part that I felt could have been a little bit better, but largely, the episode is definitely entertaining. Watching the characters bumble their way through an authentic fair is great fun. You'd think the setting of a fair wouldn't be that much fun, but the writers managed through that. I think Scooby and Shaggy's part was the best, with them defending the food from poison. Good stuff. Daphne's whole modern invention thing wasn't her best Daphneism, but it still elicited some chuckles from me, if only for confounding Velma so much. Of course, Daphne would try to come up with loopholes to get some enjoyment from the far too authentic setting. The ghostly jester was definitely my favorite part of the episode. His creepy design and whole rhyming shtick worked towards his appeal. I adore how the show has such an off-kilter appearance, yet that design choice never stops the creative team from designing really horrific and creepy monsters. My hat's off to you, Scooby-Doo team. Or maybe I just love villainous gestures. Also, I almost thought they went for the most iconic evil clown Mark Hamill, but looking at the credits, it's actually Troy Baker. No wonder he reminded me of the Joker, because he voiced him in, Arkham Origins? Really great stuff, Troy. But the greatest part of the episode was when Shaggy and Scooby get him to actually go home. I've never seen this happen in the entire franchise, but I laughed my butt off. This was such a fantastic scene, and I have to congratulate whoever wrote it. Now, the reveal of who it really was, his name escapes me, but he's essentially the agent, right? Was also fairly amusing since he's so much larger than, the jester. But that kind of helps trick people into believing the foe is someone else. His motivation was pretty standard. He wants to make big profits by introducing unauthentic elements like unicorns or dragons into the fair. What worked for this reveal is just the retelling the gang went through to make it more medievally. Oh, so what did I think lacked in this episode? Actually a chase scene. Well, Chase is a little bit fudging it since they more or less threw stuff at the jester as he attacked them. The music was rocking, but I felt the chase itself was a little boring. Which is shocking for a Scooby-Doo cartoon, but hey, it happens. I'm okay with them experimenting with that iconic element of the franchise, like in the episode El Bandito, but here it just didn't click for me. The only part that did was the jester and how he was dodging all kinds of crap. But other than that, nah. But what did you all think of Ren Scare? Do you enjoy it or no? Leave a comment below. While you're still here, do make sure to check out my Patreon and my merch store. I'd really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. After being beat up by a monster resembling the Hulk, Shaggy and Scooby won out of the mystery-solving game in Episode 4, How to Train Your Coward. And much like the title suggests, beyond being a movie title reference, they'll be training their replacements. I really love the concept for the episode, as you imagine 2 big chickens wouldn't stand for their lives being put on the line on a weekly basis. It also brings to mind the opening to the god-awful live-action Scooby-Doo movie where the gang all split. Don't worry, Be Cool Scooby-Doo handles it far better. If Be Cool Scooby-Doo has made a name for itself for breaking down the classic Scooby-Doo tropes, then this one does the same for itself, with scenes where Shaggy essentially explains him and Scooby throwing monsters off their guard by not looking scared, all so their replacements can learn. This concept leads to many of the episode's laughs, and I couldn't be happier. The plot also reinforces the old belief of the franchise that Scooby and Shaggy are the glue that holds the gang together. While it doesn't go to the extremes past iterations have gone to in order to show that, it does play around with the 2 cowards' refusal to do anything scary being what helps solve mysteries. That's enforced when Shaggy's replacement voices his opinion that the treasure they find is the remains of past victims, which leads to the gang exploring that path instead of looking at other possibilities. Shaggy and Scooby being replaced wouldn't be as much fun if their replacements weren't a joy themselves. Morley and Bumpy are what I would imagine a modern version of the characters of Scooby-Doo looking like if they'd never existed until now. A hipster and his tiny dog. Well, no Shaggy or Scooby, the two are funny as heck watching and trying to understand what their roles even are. We haven't talked about the villain though. Well, it's a vampire. Another monster far too generic for me to look into. I don't think it's based on anything, really. Maybe the plot resembles a classic episode, but I can't be bothered to look. It's a decent monster for the episode. Once again, turns out to be someone far larger than the actual costume, the sheriff. His motive? Scaring people away and taking their money. Simple as that. While not the most exciting or intricate of plans, it's a scene where they question who carries behind gold that makes it all worth it. How to Train Your Coward is an excellent episode that comically explores the idea of what would the Scooby Gang be like without Scooby or Shaggy. While their return to the gang isn't as grand or emotional as I'd have liked, I think something else should have spurred them to action, I do think their writers handled it all with love and respect. In conclusion, a must-watch episode. You can hopefully find these episodes on Boomerang's app eventually, but for now, sadly, places like Kim Cartoon are your best hopes. Do not visit Kiss Cartoon. Apparently, it got taken over and will give you viruses if you aren't careful. Anyway, if you've seen the episode, sound off below with your thoughts. What do you think of Shaggy and Scooby's replacements? Would you want to see them appear again? Or maybe come back with their own group? Let me know. And if you'd be so kind, please check out my merch store or Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. Even $1 a month would be greatly appreciated and would help me. Scroll down to the description for links to those. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. Worst in Show is an interesting episode on a couple of fronts. It switches up the group dynamic in a way that we haven't really seen before on the show, though it's been kinda done in other iterations, and it has a rather interesting bad guy reveal. What would you say is the normal dynamic of the franchise? Fred, Daphne, and Velma, with Scooby and Shaggy on their own. Sometimes Velma has gone with Scooby and Shaggy, but in this episode the group is split up in an unusual way. Fred goes solo, Daphne is teamed with Scooby, and Velma's with Shaggy. While Fred's solo adventure is nothing terribly noteworthy, it's the other two groupings that are of interest. Daphne's always been an interesting, fun character, especially when the writers of past shows have explored her backstory. There's not much done to explore that here, but we do get a snippet of Daphne's past influencing her present, namely not quite helping Scooby prepare for the dog show he's been entered into in order to learn more about the Hound Beast because of her past with pageants. It's not quite what we'd call a Daphneism, but it gave us more insight into Daphne's character and Scooby, which eventually led to a heartwarming moment and an incredible dance number. On the other hand, there's Velma and Shaggy, a pairing we haven't seen much of in this series, but has been the subject of shipping in Mystery Incorporated. I actually really like them teaming up because it allows two characters who never usually interact by themselves to learn more from each other. Velma learns about the wonders of food, while Shaggy learns a similar lesson about research and reading, and in the end, this somehow helps Fred figure out the identity of the monster. That leads us into the other interesting aspect of this episode, the reveal that the monster was another dog. It's such a bizarre choice, and one I can't recall previous iterations doing. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's just so crazy. It works, mind you, but this is definitely something you probably wouldn't see in past shows. Plus, the monster design? Top notch. Having said that, I wouldn't say Worst in Show is an especially great episode. It has some really unique changes to the Scooby formula, shows off Fred's ingenuity, and has some generally funny scenes, but I just didn't care for it as much as other episodes this season. I just think those things could have been done a little bit better. Still, even then the episode is pretty good, so it's not like it's some horrific disaster or anything. It's just an example of a rather solid episode not being to my taste. But now let's end off on one of my favorite scenes, the masseuse coming back to get Fred at the end of the episode.
Okay, let's hit those shoulders!
If you'd like to watch alongside me, you can find these episodes on Kim Cartoon, or you can watch all of Season 1 on Boomerang's streaming service. Season 2 may be added in the near future. To catch my videos a little earlier than everyone else, consider my Patreon, where it'll only cost you $5 a month. Or you can just pledge $1, which won't get you anything, but any amount helps. To get something more tangible, I have a merch store where I have some shirts for sale. Links to both are in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. I'm in a bit of a rush today due to my own procrastination, of course, so this review is going to have to be quick. Mysteries on the Disorient Express gives us an assortment of monsters and mysteries for Fred and the gang to solve, and it's great. There was an episode earlier in the season with Fred solving several mysteries in one go, and now we get an entire episode with a similar concept. I like that the space in which the episode took place was so restrictive, as they were on a train. It really gave the writers a lot to play with in terms of the gang trying to get away to solve the mystery without the conductor catching them. And it was pretty funny too, especially anything to do with Scooby being Shaggy's mother. Heck, even the Daphneism was almost as fun this episode. Not to say it never is, just that this one was especially great. I'm a fan of how, despite seemingly being useless throughout much of the episode, by the end, Daphne had successfully honed her senses enough to help them find a clue and escape their dog kennels. Her picking the lock reminded me of What's New Scooby-Doo Daphne, who would often use everyday feminine products to help the gang, and I'm glad something like that happened in this episode. I don't have time to really spend on the various monsters we saw this episode, but I love their design and variety. The episode had everything from the Grim Reaper to the Mummy. Maybe later this week I'll do a second video and talk about what previous monster designs they could be, though most of the show's monsters are not based on classic ones. For now, just know I love the idea of there being a bunch of monsters. Those monsters were all after a chip, too. It's probably the first time the gang have solved a mystery that could help save the world, at least in this specific show. So that's a cool idea, and I wouldn't mind seeing another episode that puts them into the shoes of an international agent. In conclusion, it's a really great episode. It's comical, it's unique, and I think you'll really love it. Check it out if you get a chance. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies. Welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. I hope you had a fun, safe Halloween. I just finished watching some movies with my family and friends myself. It was a pretty good time, and I'm plumb tuckered out, but I know I would regret not trying to get this review up when it's still relevant to the season. So here I am at 11 p.m. praying the download of this episode will speed up. It's currently saying 1 hour left. So I can watch the episode, write its review, and get it up on time. Suffice it is to say I doubt it'll be up before Halloween is over, but at least I tried, right? The aptly titled Halloween sees the gang investigate a mystery on Halloween, much to poor Fred's chagrin. Years ago, as a kid, he'd witnessed a witch in a disappearing house, making it his first unsolved mystery. It would haunt him every year for the rest of his life. Now the same witch is at it again, and with the help of his friends, he'll finally solve this long-running mystery. The episode is a pretty entertaining one, with a decent amount of humor and a solid villain, helped by the fact that Fred has a history with her. And if you enjoy this type of thing, Velma is very informative about the roots of Halloween, so hey, you learned something from a Scooby-Doo episode. Some of the highlights of the episode were Scoob and Shaggy playing their trick-or-treating, or Daphne dressed as Zombie Velma. I know I'll be asked about the witch, but no, I don't think she's based on a specific Scooby-Doo villain from the past. She's a generic witch, as far as I can see. I didn't look her up, but come on, witches are very common. I'm not spoiling who the culprit is, but I got a kick out of knowing that one of the Scooby characters agreed with them. To a point, anyway. I'll let you see when you watch it, which is currently free to watch on boomerang.com, though it may be over by the time this video goes up. As far as Halloween episodes go, it's probably not the best the franchise has ever done, but even a lesser Be Cool Scooby-Doo episode is still incredibly good. The animation's smooth, the soundtrack is catchy, and I love that old-timey film effect that they used during the chase scenes. Really added to the atmosphere. Now, Halloween may not have gone out of its way to be completely crazy or groundbreaking, but it's still clear to me that these writers know Scooby-Doo and know what will work on Be Cool Scooby-Doo. The episode is a fun watch, especially on Halloween. I can't recommend it enough. And that's it for me. The Halloween season is officially over, and it's time to return to the normal, less spooky cartoon hangout. I hope you enjoyed all the special content I released during the month, and if you missed out on any of it, make sure to check out my 5 movies to watch on Halloween, as well as my Return of Skullface live-action series. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. Episode 8, The Curse of Kanyaku, sees the gang go international, to the land of the rising sun, Japan to be more specific. I'm always a fan of when the Scooby Gang go to other countries. It gives the writers a chance to take great advantage of another culture and come up with some of the more unique monster encounters and mysteries the franchise has ever had. Like, instead of being chased by a vampire or some werewolf, this one features a giant crab monster, Kanyaku. If that's not unique, I don't know the meaning of the word. Fred's obsessive need to solve a 700-year-old mystery, which is at least 10 times better than his Dukes of Hazzard remake Lust for Traps in the previous iteration, leads to a fair bit of trouble and hilarity. Things like Daphne usurping Velma's viral status in Japan, or Scooby and Shaggy searching for the most exotic food. While the latter isn't anything too unexpected, though still amusing, I really latched onto the Daphne-Velma parts of the episode. I don't know, I just think it was interesting getting more of a look into Velma's character, especially her self-esteem. Velma's not what I would say is a cool person, so the fact she's managed to become a status symbol in Japan meant a lot to her. Daphne accidentally took that away with her usual quirky behavior. The whole little, I guess you could call it a subplot, was very well written and obviously had a touching conclusion. As for the monster, well, it's a Japanese crab monster. I'm not sure if the writers based it on an actual myth, as I couldn't find anything on a quick Google search, but as far as the franchise itself goes, I can only find one crab monster, the crab creature of Creepy Crag from Scooby-Doo Goes to Hollywood. This episode had a lot of fun moments, and I'm sorry it took me so long to actually sit down and watch it. If you like Japan, you'll probably enjoy a lot of the little cultural moments. And that's it for me. What did you think of this episode? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as what your favorite part was. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon, where for $5, you get access to videos early, and higher tiers get you even better rewards. Oh, and there's a shop for you to buy shirts too, and until the 26th, they are 15% off, so be sure to check those out. All of that and more down in the description of this video and the end slate. Thanks for watching, and take care. Merry Christmas, lords and ladies. Welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. I hope you're all having a great Christmas. I've been on break myself for the holidays, but I made sure to get up this special episode just in time for Christmas. Episode 10, Scroogie-Doo, reimagines the classic story of A Christmas Carol as if the Scooby Gang existed back then, and it's a genuinely fun story. It's also something I don't think we've seen much of. Usually, Scooby-Doo episodes have all taken place squarely in their own time periods, but the writers of Be Cool Scooby-Doo managed to once again shake things up in new and exciting ways. A lot of the fun is seeing a more modern sense of humor transplanted onto the time period, like Fred joking about phones, or Fred thinking the trip from America didn't take as long as it actually did. Depending on your sense of humor, some of the jokes in this episode will either hit you just right or feel a little too off-putting given the time period. But considering the end of the episode, I think it all works out well enough. I also like the use of the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future being used to cause Velma to doubt her role in the Mystery Gang. It's a bit of drama that I like to see every now and again. For a minute, I did actually think the ghosts could be real this time, this episode being clearly non-canon to the rest of the series after all. But in the end, it turned out to be the Doctor, trying to get Scrooge to be a better person and get rich off of it. It's an interesting twist that eventually leads to Scrooge remaining an awful person, thus souring the gang's win. The only weak link to the episode was the chase music that, despite being kinda Christmassy, didn't really connect with me. I think something more in line with the time period could have worked better in my opinion. A highlight was seeing Velma's future, even though it wasn't real. The idea of a disgruntled and angry Velma ending up a villain is an exciting concept, and of all the characters, the one it's most likely to be. Again, it may not have been a real look into her future, but it was still a worthy twist when you are led to believe the ghosts are real. And those were my thoughts on Season 2, Episode 10. I hope you enjoyed the video and the episode itself. If you have seen this one, let me know what you thought of the change in time periods and the idea of a villainous Velma down in the comments below. And remember to check out my Patreon and store shirt too. Links as always in the description. Thanks for watching, have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you after the holidays. Take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. After months of being absent from my review lineup, Be Cool Scooby-Doo is back. You can hopefully look forward to a brand new review every single week until I finish the series. Starting with episode 9, which I skipped in order to review the related Christmas episode in time for Christmas last year, and moving on to episode 11. First, let's begin with episode 9, Vote Velma. As interesting a concept as Velma running for mayor is, I wasn't really into this episode. Normally, I'm a huge fan of most episodes of Be Cool Scooby-Doo, though there have been small instances where I wasn't jazzed about certain jokes or elements. This is probably the first episode in an otherwise terrific show that I was just not a huge fan of. Now, despite that, I wouldn't say there's anything horribly bad about Vote Velma. As I said, one of the Scooby Gang running for a political position is a funny idea, but I don't feel the episode really made great use of that concept, or maybe politics in general bore me. The episode also didn't have any great jokes or gags going on, the closest thing being Scooby and Shaggy critiquing food as if it were high art. The monster, the ghost of Amos Littlefield's founder, just also didn't stick out very much either. And honestly, while the chase music was rockin', the chase scene itself was kinda boring. In fact, the only good thing that came from this episode was that chase music. It's just a rather bland, boring episode. Next up is episode 11, In Space. More like Dead Space, am I right? Because from the spooky abandoned space station to an alien infection running amok, this feels like a family-friendly version of the popular horror video game, Dead Space. Maybe I'm just seeing what I want to see though. There's tons of other space station horror stories besides Dead Space. I actually reviewed the Dead Space movie last Halloween. Either way, I love the episode. I just have this thing for the more spooky settings in the Scooby-Doo franchise, and the whole creepy space station setting is just aces in my mind. The Scooby Gang inexplicably end up going into space, that's actually part of 2 separate jokes made throughout the episode, and encounter what appear to be a dangerous alien life form that infects its victims, turning them into scary red skull monsters. The setup is great because suddenly the characters can't trust each other, and it leads to some hilarious situations and lines. My favorite bit being Scoob and Shag's distrust of Feigenbaum.
Where are they? What's up, Feigenbaum?
And there's also a very real moment when Fred and friends believe that Daphne has been infected. It doesn't get too heavy, but this is certainly one of a few instances in which the danger is very real. Heck, the characters are freaking launched out into space. If it weren't for Fred's decked out van, they'd actually be dead. It's incredibly intense, and I loved it. The villain this time around seems to be a reimagining of the Space Kook from Scooby-Doo Where Are You? What else could it possibly be? Sure, the cackle is gone. That would have been a great touch and would have increased the spook factor, writers. And his skull is red instead of, what, blue? But come on, it's Space Kook. Sadly, he doesn't even get a name in this episode. Might I suggest Red Space Kook? Or Red Kook? If Red Hulk can be a thing, then so can this. Another favorite part is when Scooby and Shaggy go into a wormhole and end up back in previous episodes. That was a really cool touch. I wonder if they retroactively changed the past. They certainly were the ones behind the red scroll at the beginning of the episode. Much like the characters say towards the end, maybe I'm thinking about this way too hard. And that about does it for my review of episodes 9 and 11. Which of these 2 did you like the most, and why? Share down below in the comments. And now I'd like to take the time to thank my patrons over on Patreon for supporting me. So, thank you to Yasmin, I really appreciate it. If you'd like to see how you can become a patron, get early access to videos, and get more of a say in what I cover on this channel, links to my Patreon will be down below. Thanks for watching, and take care.
I think we found ourselves a clue.
Scooby-Doo, where are you? Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout and the first day of Scooby Universe, the rebranded Scooby Month. As the name suggests, the series will be me reviewing or talking about Scooby media. This time we'll be returning to Be Cool Scooby-Doo with Season 2, Episode 12, Do Not Disturb. The start of this episode could legit be its own horror movie. While there are creepy and sometimes scary moments in Scooby-Doo, it's still largely a mystery comedy cartoon at the end of the day. This one intro was pretty scary. You have a woman alone in a hotel room with various rules plastered on signs. Each time she momentarily doesn't follow the rules, a noise starts up that sounds almost like ticking. It's only after obeying that it goes away. And when she finally does fully break one, and the front desk says they can no longer help her, that's when the monster shows up. Again, straight up could be a horror film of its own. Whoever came up with this intro needed a raise. The plot for the episode concerns the gang seeking refuge from a snowstorm at a fairly odd hotel with, as stated before, lots of engraved rules around, while also having the gang challenge Fred to not be as controlling. I actually really liked the plot for this one, even if I think Fred did nothing wrong. It led to a lot of comedic moments, as Fred tried to hold in his controlling behavior. The ghost mother was also really chilling to watch in almost every scene, especially when Scoob and Shaggy are trapped in an elevator, and she manages to get in, and in a surprise twist, is not fooled by their disguises. Sure, you could argue she's just a typical ghost old lady, but her tisking and waving her finger is downright scary to imagine. She's got a really neat design overall. Now, one criticism for this episode that I would probably have was Daphne, which is bizarre because I normally enjoy this version of Daphne. But in most episodes, her Daphneisms don't quite get in the way, per se. This one, she straight up left her friends outside in the hall while a ghost mom was approaching them just to do some feng shui. Not cool, Daphne. Not cool. And my final criticism for the episode really has to be the moments towards the end of the episode with the caretaker, Reggie. It came out of left field, and I was left really confused because it wasn't super clear what happened. Supposedly, he had been tied up by the villain of the episode so that they could pretend to be him, but we weren't clearly shown that. There's him with ropes on his hand, but there's a blink and you'll miss it shot. You might even overlook it because why would you assume he's been tied up till now? Maybe he was working with ropes. I don't know. Feels like they really wanted to do the whole, whoa, it was me? Wait, but I'm me scene, but didn't think it through by revealing Reggie had been tied up most of the episode. As for things that I enjoyed about the episode, it has some really awesome, creepy background designs. I think this is always an underrated element of Be Cool Scooby-Doo that's overlooked by a lot of people. Like, when this show wants something to look ghoulish, they can and will. A couple off the top of my head are when Fred is walking down the hall to Mother's room, and then when the gang are in the basement with the doll heads and disembodied hands. Another thing I need to bring up is that one of the most spoken criticisms about this iteration is that it looks like Family Guy, a claim that I usually object to. For whatever reason, though, the scenes after the theme song played were oddly like Family Guy, or at least reminded me of it, actually. The cadence in which Fred spoke in the van at one point, or to the front desk, felt eerily similar to if Family Guy had done it. It was really weird because it's not something I've noticed till now. Not really a criticism or a praise, just an irregularity, honestly. Also, a fair bit of this episode reminded me of the original series That Snow Ghost for the snowed-in hotel and obviously creepy employees, The Shining for their brief respite outside the hotel in the snow, and of course, Psycho because of the son running the hotel while alluding to a deceased mother and a room that no one's supposed to go into. I don't know if the latter was an influence to the writers and animators at all, but it really stuck out to me. Personally, I think Do Not Disturb was a good episode to return to with Scooby Universe. It grabbed me with this chilling opening and had me smiling a lot at some of the funny moments involving Fred, or Scooby and Shaggy. There were a couple of flubs with Daphne, but overall this is another quality Be Cool Scooby-Doo episode. If you still have not watched this show because you were told it was Family Guy or the Teen Titans Go version of Scooby-Doo, please do me the favor of at least watching one episode. This one, if you don't want to have to go looking for one. Anyways, that's going to be it from me. Please chime in below with your thoughts on this episode or this review. Consider becoming a member for early access to most videos. And I will see you next time for more Scooby Universe. Thanks for watching, and take care.
I am back, way back! What is that?
Oh, you don't know? That's Father.
I think we found ourselves a clue.
Scooby-Doo, where are you? Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Hello, lords and ladies. Welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon, and also the final video of Scooby Universe. Today's video is going to be about Season 2, Episode 13 of Be Cool Scooby-Doo, Silver Scream, where the gang find themselves at the heart of a mystery at a film studio involving the revival of an old black and white film and its angry ghost lead actor. In contrast to my previous review, my feelings on Silver Scream are a tad more subdued. I love to say constantly, it's not as if it's bad, I just wasn't overly as thrilled with it. The opening is decent, silly, but certainly no episode 12, and the rest of the episode is rather okay. It's not the first time the characters have explored a film studio for a plot, and while being around for decades means having repeat settings, of course, they can usually spice things up by just making the episode or the movie fun. This time it was about as average as possible. My main complaint, if it can even be considered a big one, is I don't personally, please note that word by the way, feel like enough was done with the concept. The villain of the episode is great, how he has this grainy film quality effect over him, which in Scooby-Doo fashion never gets explained, and that he looks like he leapt out of a silent picture. Even has those dialogue cards that you'd see back in that era when he screams, which is actually why I felt like the concept wasn't fully utilized. There's maybe one or two moments in the episode where that comes into play, but most of the time when Archie shows up to scare the characters, it doesn't really come with anything related to the silent movie aspect of his design. Maybe I'm asking too much here, but I think you could have worked that more into his time on screen, or even just the chase scene. Dumb idea, but maybe the chase scene could have been in black and white, and the gang engaging in some old school slapstick comedy. I don't know. Now, concerning Daphne, this episode's bit with her was, alright, I suppose. It certainly isn't her worst, nor her best, it was just average. She decides to become a tour guide during the mystery, narrating what they're seeing, or what they will see. There are some funny parts in the episode, like when the gang is hidden and she speaks, scaring Scoob and Shaggy, but otherwise it really wasn't much to write home about. If anything, her best line was when the gang was lounging around, defeated, but she gets cut off by Fred. Some standout scenes were the gang watching the executive meddled with final film of R.G. Barnes for being so over-the-top hilarious, as well as probably something modern-day executives would probably do. I know, I've read about a ton of meddling on TV tropes for some reason. And the scene of Shaggy trying to describe the made-up film scene Archie's meant to be in order to allow him and Scooby-Doo to flee, I thought that was pretty funny. Honestly, in conclusion, Silver Scream is more of a typical Scooby-Doo episode than anything outstanding like I've come to expect from Be Cool Scooby-Doo. It's nowhere close to bad, but it's difficult to sit here and think of how to praise it either. If I had to place it anywhere, I would imagine it would be among the lowest episodes if I ranked the show. Season 2 started off strong as far as I remember, but this middle section of episodes seems like it could be losing steam. I'm not quite sure. Let's hope the next episode knocks my socks off. With that said, this is going to be it for my review and the closing out of Scooby Universe this year. I know there wasn't a ton of content, but when I started plans for this year's Scooby month, I made sure I reined myself in a bit. I knew if I tried to overschedule a ton of videos, I would fall behind massively, and even with the few videos I did do, I technically did that anyways, so hey, at least I know my limits by now. Unfortunately, I did have to drop plans for a movie review, mostly for time, but also because of work, and I'm actually starting to get sick. I don't know if you've been able to tell it in my voice, so yeah, I wasn't able to do that. But maybe you'll see that later in the year, since Scooby Universe content isn't restricted to just 1 month a year anymore. Anyways, chime in with the usual down below, hit subscribe and the bell button for more reviews, and I'll catch you lords and ladies again soon. Thanks for watching, and take care.
I think we found ourselves a clue.
Scooby-Doo, where are you?
Hello lords and ladies! Welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. It's been another long while since I last covered this show, but better late than never, right? This time I'm reviewing Fright of Hand, which sees the gang travel to Hocus Pocus Palace, in part because Fred had dreams of becoming a stage magician as a kid. And guess what's waiting for them? A rabbit, of course. But this isn't your usual rabbit munching on carrots or asking doctors if they're alright. No, this is a giant mutant rabbit wanting to scare off the members of the palace. And Fred's gonna make the best of the situation by using his dream to catch the rabbit. I think it's interesting that despite 2 seasons of dealing with men in monster costumes, this is the first time we hear of Fred's dream of becoming a magician or of loving magic. You think it would have came up before. Obviously, revealing new interests randomly is the typical Scooby-Doo thing, but it's still a little odd. Even a little silly, maybe. Which Velma also happens to bring up, which causes Fred to disappear and nearly kill the gang.
Ta-da! Now who's silly?
It's a gag you'd expect right out of Family Guy, and the episode really does it well. Later in the review, I'm going to talk about some highlights, but this is, I think, the best moment in the episode, and it's really early on. It's hilarious what Fred does to the gang over the course of the episode's plot. Usually in this show, Daphne has a new thing she does, a Daphneism, whether it be puppets or falconry. This time, and I don't think it's the first time, but I can't remember any other instances, Fred gets to shine with his own Fredism, if you will. So, I think that's pretty nice. It's certainly better than the reveal of him being a male cheerleader. As far as monster designs go for the monster rabbit, it's fine. It's a monster rabbit. There's probably only so many variations you can do before you come back around. Despite that, I also didn't find it a very interesting monster. Maybe because it's just a rabbit, or maybe because other than a few cool bits during the chase sequence, like popping out of a magician's hat, or even earlier in the episode appearing from behind a false wall, Fright of Hand doesn't really do much else with him. Nothing that's really cool or spooky or really all that noteworthy. Doesn't really stick out. The monster's backstory, that of being a regular rabbit, apparently possessed by a demon summoned by an older magician, is way better than anything it does in the episode, unfortunately. The somewhat lackluster rabbit monster aside, I didn't hate the episode. The episode was generally pretty fun, with some hilarious bits sprinkled throughout. I think one of the highlights of the episode might be this back and forth between Shaggy and Fred.
Hold it! Like you always get to go in the direction the monster does not go. This time, Scoob and I want to go in that direction.
Fine, we'll switch.
Hup, 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 hup.
Not so fast.
It's such a long, nonsensical joke, but it just gets funnier the longer it goes on. In a way, it reminds me of some Family Guy jokes that also are funny primarily because of their length. Also, I have to give a shout out to the random as hell tiger that shows up as a judge partway through the episode. I don't know if this was supposed to be like a Tony the Tiger reference, or why he's even there, but it did get a laugh out of me for how random his inclusion was. The reveal of who the bad guy really was is also alright. I don't think the episode did much with them enough for me to lavish it with praise. The best I can think of is the bit with the mirror trick, and how if you take a close look, you'll notice it's not a true reflection of the antagonist, which may clue you in on how he vanishes and reappears, or that the monster is actually 2 people, not 1. But Saul and Greg beyond that really aren't that great of antagonists, though them getting out of their cuffs multiple times while being arrested was fairly amusing given, they are magicians after all. It reminds me of that one magician from Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? It was one of the earlier episodes, and it reminds me, why didn't he try to get out of his cuffs if he was such a good magician? I don't know. I just think that's funny. Overall, I think Fright of Hand is a rather average Be Cool Scooby-Doo episode. It's got some good scenes and jokes here and there, but it probably won't end up on anyone's top 10 list of Be Cool Scooby-Doo episodes. Now, if you disagree, let me know down in the comments what you thought of this episode back when it actually came out, because you know how late I am with this review. And also, before you leave, please consider becoming a member for early access to reviews like this. I've also reopened my merch store, which you can find on my profile under the store tab. There's a lot of cool shirts and stickers you can snag for yourself there. And finally, last plug, I swear, I'm also an ambassador for Extra Wallets. If you want something minimalist and you don't carry many cards with you, click through my referral link down in the description to buy an Extra Wallet. I've been using it for months, and it's really cool, I promise. Alright, that's all I got to say. Thanks for waiting so patiently for more reviews of this show. Hopefully I can do more of these more regularly than I've been doing the past few years. Anyways, thanks for watching, and take care.
Full is an illusion.
I think we found ourselves a clue.
Scooby-Doo, where are you? Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Hello, lords and ladies. Welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. Greece is the word sees the gang vacationing in Greece, only to be stuck in your chamber with a descending ceiling trap straight out of Resident Evil. The only solution is in a scroll Velma finds that tells the tale of an ancient Greek version of our characters. Yes, that's right. We're going back in time to ancient Greece, a time of great scholars, fierce warriors, and terrible monsters. The entire episode is set in ancient Greece, similar to how Scroogie-Doo was set in a different time period, 1843 London. Normally, I'm not a fan of these kinds of episodes. It's hard to become invested in stories within a story since it doesn't usually matter to the show or the episode as a whole. I even groaned a little when I realized that this is what this episode was going to be about, but I have to say the episode won me over pretty quickly because of the usual Be Cool Scooby-Doo writing and humor. The Greek mystery gang come together as a result of Arachne, wreaking havoc to stop a wedding between Valmonia and the prince, which would strengthen both cities. In this era, Velma is a princess of Athens, Daphne is her servant, Fred is a warrior, Shaggy, or Shagrates, is a scholar, while old Scooby-Doo himself is, surprise, an oracle. Immediately, each of the roles in this story set up a lot of jokes, which has always been the show's strength. There's Daphne collapsing in this scene at the start of the episode,
Ah, here she is now.
Shaggy passing on his knowledge to the younger generation, but it's all about food, or even the reveal of who the Oracle really is.
Aha! The great all-seeing oracle is really a dog.
There's so many noteworthy comedic scenes in this one episode alone, it's crazy. I might even hazard as to claim it's the funniest episode yet. The best moment being, for me, Shaggy and Scoob as Zeus and Hera. I had a huge grin on my face while this whole scene played out. There's just something about how long it's drawn out that adds to its hilarity. It's just gold. And the chase scene music for this episode was a real banger, and was so good I had to rewatch the chase scene because I got distracted listening to the song.
We gotta change your life. Practice science, I just say.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of the music from What's New Scooby-Doo, specifically the theme song by Simple Plan. It really makes me wish that they would release a soundtrack for this show so everyone could enjoy it, but I doubt that's ever going to happen. And even though I said I dislike period piece/flashback episodes or whatever style this kind of episode is, I will admit the writing is outstanding, beyond just the comedy mentioned earlier. Velma struggling with her duties as a princess, despite not wanting to marry someone she doesn't love, was intriguing, and Daphne's constant reminders of being forced into servitude were funny, though admittedly did get tiresome at times. And I thought it was a bit different that instead of Velma deciding to run away after all, she realized that although she didn't want this marriage, if she shirked her responsibilities, her city would suffer. I know, it's a Scooby-Doo cartoon, and it's not that deep. But usually modern stories opt for the type of princesses who throw away their duties, even if it ends up hurting other people, so it was a nice change of pace, in my opinion. Oh, I almost forgot to talk about the monster for the episode, Arachne. I adored the design for the monster. She really felt creepy, as most spiders are. I would not want to find her chilling out in the corner of my room, that's for sure. Though I know some of you freaks would absolutely love that. Maybe it's just the concept of a giant spider with the upper body of a woman chasing you, but she really gave off intimidating vibes. Like, she could have really hurt them if she wanted to. Also, she shot webs out like Spider-Man does, from his wrist. That's neat. The inspiration for this character is, of course, the Greek mythological figure herself. According to the tale, she challenged Minerva, goddess of wisdom and crafts, to a sewing contest, basically. But so enraged by the lack of flaws in Arachne's tapestry, Minerva beat the woman with a shuttle. No, not that kind of shuttle. And it led to the girl hanging herself out of shame. Then she became a spider. You know, as one does after you hang yourself. Of course, none of that is alluded to in the episode, because that'd be a bit too dark for Be Cool Scooby-Doo, but it'd have been kind of neat to see some reference to who Arachne really was. And not really related to the episode at all, but I kind of find it amusing that I just played a game featuring a character named after Arachne, where they did recount the myth, and then I watched this episode. Life's full of coincidences. The twist as to who the spider monster is was only something I partially figured out. The other aspect actually taking me by surprise. It's not an unusual twist, but it worked within the context of the episode, and I liked it. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen the episode yet, so, go watch it if you want to see what I'm talking about. This episode, in my opinion, was a real joy to watch, and I'm glad that it was the one episode I ended up reviewing as the first video I did on my return to the channel. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest you do. It's all on HBO Max, and if you have seen it, let me know what you thought of the episode down in the comments below. Before we end things, a reminder that members get early access to videos and other perks, so consider joining today. I also have merch for sale too, so grab some if that interests you. Thanks for watching, and take care.
Well, at least we solved the mystery.
I'm hungry.
Like I could go for a really big pita.
Guys?
Hello, lords and ladies. Welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. I never once expected to see the Scooby-Doo gang explore the goth subculture, let alone go goth themselves. But that's exactly what happens when Shaggy and friends are invited to a goth party by an old friend of Shaggy's. It's one of the many ways Be Cool Scooby-Doo shakes things up, and the results are pretty hilarious.
Are you sure the fun meter has been set to full on?
I loved Fred in this episode. He's got no chill, and it's hysterical.
Goths are a subculture that began in the 1980s with the goth rock scene.
I think Fred has goths mixed up with vamps, but that's an honest mistake. This episode is jam-packed with lots of comedy, something the show handles pretty well. A lot of it is aimed at goths, but I think it's all in good fun.
Empathy, Fred. Don't judge a man until you've walked a mile in his cool platform boots.
There's even a part where Shaggy goes up against the Lord Goth, and it involves staring at cute animals. Ah yes, the Goth's mortal enemy. Cuteness. It's so bizarre, and I love it. However, it's not long before yet again the gang encounter a mystery. This time, a plant monster which Fred has quite an opinion on.
A plant monster? Seriously?
It's funny how he doesn't question any other monster, but a plant one? Nah, that's crossing the line. And admittedly, I wasn't really digging the plant monster design either, but it really grew on me. Are these puns annoying you? Good, that means they're working. One thing I do love about this episode is the story, focusing on Shaggy's character and his relationship with Amelia. Unlike Mystery Incorporated, Be Cool Scooby-Doo doesn't really tackle romance much, outside the one episode of Fred crushing on a farm girl, so to even see a tiny bit of it is cool. Shaggy spends the episode tackling who he is as a person and who he wants to be, a coward or a goth, as well as if there's something between him and Amelia. And, lo and behold, they're caught kissing. Kissing? In my Scooby-Doo media? Say it ain't so.
Unhand him, Deathbringer!
Though Shaggy is right, that is an overreaction from Scooby-Doo. Luckily, the writers stray away from having Scoob act too weird about Shaggy being with Amelia, unlike how Mystery Incorporated did it. I get that it's a staple in some cartoons to have these two characters have this almost married couple relationship, but it not actually be romantic. But I don't really want to think of Scooby and Shaggy as a couple, even as a joke. I've seen enough fan art of that for one lifetime. Thank you very much. I am a little sad, though, how the episode concluded that plotline with Shaggy friend-zoning Amelia, but considering the show doesn't have an ongoing story, we were never going to see her again anyways. However, I do approve of Amelia as one of Shaggy's new love interests. Can we get some fan art of these two? Because Shaggy deserves way more girlfriends and love interests in general. Actually, about Amelia, I really liked her character as a whole. I've always had a thing for goth characters in cartoons like Sam, Raven, and Gwen, so someone like Amelia is always going to appeal to me. The design she has is perfection, with her black dress and corset to her torn fishnet tights. My only nitpick for her is the voice actors didn't always do that an amazing job with the lines that she was given, but otherwise she was a great new character. If I did have a couple problems with the episode, I would say it would be how Amelia got introduced.
Shaggy, it's me, Amelia.
They nearly run her over, and that's what she says immediately afterwards. How did she even see Shaggy? Why did they write her as having that initial reaction? It's nonsensical, but not in a funny sort of way. It's just oddly done. The other problem is the voice for Lord Morlack.
Dearest Amelia.
You're kidding.
It's clearly them lowering the pitch of someone's voice in order for them to sound like a kid or something. Except it's done really badly here. Like, extremely bad. Unless this was the intention, I don't see why they couldn't have gotten someone else who could pull off a young boy's voice. It's the pulsating zit on an otherwise immaculate episode. And at the end of the day, I do think American Goth is a fabulous episode. The jokes rarely missed, it had an interesting monster design, we got some neat character moments with Shaggy, I loved how the gang looked as goths, damn Daphne, and Fred was in absolute mood the entire time. Easily one of the better episodes of Season 2, go watch it now on HBO Max. And that'll be it for my review of American Goth. If you enjoyed the video and you want to be around for more content like it, consider becoming a member so you get these videos a week earlier than others. Or don't, and check out this recent video I did on some kind of spicy secrets in an Adventure Time fan game. I know, scandalous. Thanks for watching. Take care.